He broke his leg trying to win me over. The entire high society knew he fell in love with a man. Later, every big screen in the city broadcasted the news of his engagement to a wealthy heiress. Someone asked him, "What about that little mute you loved like crazy?" He lit a cigarette, his eyes ice cold. "What else can I do? Just keep him around. It's not like I can actually marry a man." Chapter 1. I was the last person to know about Andrew's engagement. I am an orphan. I've had autism since childhood. I don't like talking, and I don't like interacting with people. No family was willing to adopt me, so I grew up relying on the financial support of strangers. Before meeting Andrew, my world consisted only of myself, and I didn't need anyone else. He was the one who forcefully barged in, took over my life, and told me, "Randall, stop pushing me away. I can be your family. I don't like men, and I especially hate men who relentlessly pester me." That day, the fire blazed across the sky, the thick smoke making my eyes red. In a daze, I saw a figure staggering into the burning building. His voice was hoarse as he desperately called my name. The hard shell around my heart suddenly cracked open, letting a sliver of light in. To save me, Andrew had his leg crushed and broken by a falling bookcase. The entire high society knew that Andrew had fallen in love with a man. We were together for 5 years. He said he would give me a home, but what I waited for instead was the news that he was going to marry someone else. "Bro, are you really getting married? What else can I do? If I don't, the old man will take back the cars and the houses." Andrew lit a cigarette, looking exhausted. Someone asked, "Then what about your little mute that you love like crazy?" Through the thin door panel, I heard Andrew's lazy voice. "What else can I do? Just keep him around. It's not like I can actually marry a man." A jolt of electricity shot from the top of my head to the soles of my feet. Only one sentence remained in my mind. Andrew is getting married. He's marrying someone else. This man, who ran halfway across the north side of the city this morning just because I said I wanted a pineapple bun before he left. Now, he was discussing with his buddies the difference between men and women. "Hey, seriously, that little mute of yours who hates talking barely says a few words a day. How does he moan in bed? Does he just pop out 2 words at a time? Hubby? Hurts? Hubby gentle? Ha ha ha." Their laughter abruptly stopped the moment the door was pushed open. "Randall!" Andrew hurriedly chased after me and pressed down on my hand as I was trying to open the car door. "You heard everything?" "Yes, I heard." My nose stung, suppressing the agonizing tightness in my chest. I looked up at him. Andrew cursed under his breath, raising a hand to massage his temple. "Randall, don't be mad. They just have filthy mouths and like to joke around. You are getting married." I interrupted him, my voice trembling slightly. Andrew stiffened, then quickly bent down to grasp my shoulders. "Listen to my explanation about this. It's not that I want to get married. My dad is forcing me. You know him, he just wants to hold a grandchild sooner. Randall, don't worry. That woman won't affect us, and she won't move into our house. Once the child is born, I'll throw it to my dad, and I will never see that woman again for the rest of my life." Seeing me stay silent, he breathed a sigh of relief and pulled me into his arms like he usually did. "Randall, I knew it. You are so understanding. You can definitely understand me. Yes, let's break up." "What did you say?" "Say it again." "We are breaking up." Andrew refused to break up and even locked me in the house. He wouldn't let me go out, nor would he let me go to work, until a call from Director Kenny at the hospital was transferred to the house line. "Randall, there's been a massive pile-up on the highway, and many patients have come in. There's one patient who is severely injured, and the surgery is highly difficult. You're the only one in the hospital who can do it. Hurry over." Andrew wouldn't answer the phone, and when I spoke to the security camera, no one responded. Left with no choice, I jumped from the second-floor balcony and scraped my knees bloody. By the time I limped my way to the hospital, that patient had already passed away because it was too late to save him. Everyone looked at me in silence, but those heavy gazes pressed down on me until I couldn't breathe. Director Kenny patted my arm and comforted me. "Randall, don't blame yourself too much. There are other patients waiting. This accident was too sudden, and the hospital is in chaos right now, We have to hold the line. I nodded, my throat tight. I couldn't help but blame myself. If I could have arrived earlier, there would have been at least a 50% chance to save him. But this was not the time to wallow in these emotions. I had to pull myself together. There were more patients waiting. By the time I finished my work at the hospital, it was already 2 days later. I needed to go home to change clothes and take the opportunity to move my things out of that house. Randall, when did you get this injury? Director Kenny walked me to the parking lot and noticed the wound on my knee. Because it hadn't been treated, the flesh and blood had fused with the torn fibers of my pants. Every slight movement hurt terribly. Let me drive you back. No need, Director Kenny. Thank you. I don't like talking, and my relationships with my colleagues are generally average. But Director Kenny has a good personality. Even if he doesn't get an enthusiastic response, he is still very warm-hearted. As we were politely declining each other, a familiar voice came from not far away. Randall, what are you doing? As soon as we got in the door, before I could explain, Andrew threw me onto the sofa. Fine, Randall. You ask me for a breakup on one end and hook up with another man on the other. A colleague from the hospital, right? Hey, I've seen him a few times. You guys have been sleeping together behind my back for a long time, haven't you? You! Shut up. The more he spoke, the uglier his words became. My knee had just bumped into the coffee table, and I struggled to stand up. Taking a long stride, Andrew pinned me back onto the sofa, tightly gripping my shoulders. Tell the truth, have you two done it? Unreasonable. I rarely get angry, and I dislike arguing even more. Red-faced disputes only make people lose their minds. But Andrew's words were getting more and more vicious. In his eyes, it seemed I was an extremely despicable person. And all of this was simply because I brought up breaking up. He was clearly the one getting married to someone else. The exhaustion of the past few days, the physical pain, and the mental torture pushed my emotions to the verge of a total breakdown. I gritted my teeth and looked at him. Andrew, I want a breakup. I don't want to see you again. Bullshit. What right do you have to ask me for a breakup? Randall, don't forget whose fault it is that my leg became like this. What right do you have to say break up? Between us, only I have the right to throw you away. I still remember on our 1-year anniversary, the first time we lay in the same bed. Andrew just quietly held me and made no other moves. Just as I was about to fall asleep, I heard his suppressed crying by my ear. He had said, Randall, it was so hard to finally get you to like me. Please don't hate me, okay? But now, completely ignoring my resistance, he tore my clothes and pinned me forcefully against the sofa. To tell the truth, you're like a log in bed. Randall, after so many years, I've long grown tired of it. You want to break up? Fine, serve me well today until I'm satisfied, and I might consider letting you go. Chapter 2. Night fell, and outside the floor-to-ceiling windows was the most bustling cityscape. Through the reflection on the glass, I saw my own shaking body, like a soulless doll completely at someone else's mercy. When I woke up, I was the only one in the spacious room. My body felt as if it had been run over by a heavy truck, repeatedly shattered and pieced back together. My clothes were covered in bloodstains, and I didn't even have the strength to lift my arm. In all my years growing up, I had never felt such despair. My life, just like myself, was completely ruined. At that moment, I truly wanted to jump off the balcony. For so many years, my life had consisted of nothing but work and Andrew. An inexplicable sorrow enveloped me. Driven by some ghost or demon, I struggled to pick up my phone and dialed the number I had only glanced at once. The phone rang for a long time before it was answered. The man's voice on the other end was deep and powerful, carrying a somewhat indifferent tone. Who is it? Please help me. When I woke up again, I was in an unfamiliar place. The spacious room was empty, save for the ticking of an old grandfather clock. My head ached terribly, and fragmented memories rushed into my mind. A kicked-open door, a taking-off helicopter, a blurry side profile in the cabin, until an old man pushed the door open and walked in, interrupting my thoughts. He said, Mr. Randall, the boss wants to see you. I followed him through this house that resembled a 20th century castle, eventually meeting the boss he spoke of. The man wore a dark wool coat. His aura was ice-cold, and his sharply contoured face held no expression whatsoever. He sat on a black leather sofa, his long legs casually crossed. His slender fingers held a cigar, the ember glowing faintly in the dim room. The last time I saw him was 3 years ago. At that time, he was in a wretched state. Half of his body dyed red with blood. Back then, in order to treat Andrew's leg injury, I voluntarily applied to be dispatched to Italy for study, and I witnessed that attack on the street. No one dared to step forward. His artery was severed, and the blood from his neck was continuously spurting out. If he kept bleeding like that, he would die. Everyone, step aside. Call an ambulance. I knelt on the ground, pressing down desperately on his mangled artery, even faintly feeling the pulse throbbing. I sat in the hospital hallway for half the night, and after confirming he was fine, I prepared to leave. Someone stopped me and handed me a business card. His Chinese wasn't very fluent, but I could understand it. "Sir, thank you for your help. The boss will thank you personally when he wakes up, and will present you with 3 million euros as a reward." Shortly after arriving at the hospital, a large group of people showed up. They wore suits, looked well-trained, and had all come for the man I saved. Although I was mentally prepared and knew the person I saved was a big shot, the number 3 million euros still shocked me for quite a while. Of course, I wouldn't accept it. I only stayed to confirm he was okay, not to ask for money. I only glanced at the business card and didn't take it to heart, but I remembered the person's name, Casper. After returning to my country, I searched for his information online. There was very little information, only a few short lines, yet it was enough to make me understand the gap between us. I thought I would never have any interaction with him again in this lifetime. When I made that phone call that day, I actually didn't hold out much hope. But I never expected that Casper would actually come, and even bring me to Italy. "Come here." His tone was lazy, his voice a bit hoarse, carrying a trace of exhaustion. Compared to now, I felt that the blood-soaked version of him from last time was actually less intimidating. "Mr. Casper." I hesitantly walked forward and, by the moonlight, saw his face clearly. It was obvious that Casper was of mixed heritage. He had exquisite features, naturally deep-set eyes, a high bridge of the nose, and thin lips, an extremely noble and aloof face. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, unexpectedly revealing a pair of shallow dimples. "Afraid of me?" I shook my head, unable to stop myself from gripping the hem of my shirt tightly. The man flicked his cigar ash and looked up at me. "Liar." Mr. Casper, why were you willing to help me? You saved my life, so I'm helping you. Is that hard to understand?" I didn't believe it. I didn't believe that a big shot like him would truly dispatch a helicopter all the way from Italy to pick me up just because I saved him once. It wasn't worth it. At least, I never felt I was that important. Perhaps seeing through my thoughts, Casper put out his cigar and continued, "It's just making a trip. What does it matter? Dr. Randall's life-saving grace can never be repaid too much. Therefore, I decided." He deliberately dragged out his tone, carrying a somewhat joking manner. Just as I was about to say, "No need for money," I heard his words, "To make you pledge yourself to me." Even until I returned to the country with Casper, I still couldn't believe that I had actually married a man. Half a month ago, Casper and I got our marriage certificate in Italy. Because it was an arranged marriage, there was no ceremony. He only took me to attend his family's private dinner. I met Casper's grandfather, an old man with only 3 months left to live. This was also the reason Casper and I entered into an arranged marriage. Casper's family was surprisingly open-minded. They didn't make me feel uncomfortable because I am a man. They even treated me like one of their own. Especially Casper's grandfather, who was particularly affectionate toward me, as if he had known me for a long time. Because Casper had been expanding his market domestically in recent years, most of his work was back here. Plus, I still needed to go back to work. So after meeting his family, we left Italy and returned home. After returning, even though I deliberately avoided asking for news about Andrew, as a famous second-generation heir, the news of his engagement to Karina, the heiress of the Brown family, still reached my ears. I heard that after Andrew discovered I was missing, he turned the entire city upside down. He also publicly declared that as long as he didn't agree to break up, I would be his forever. No one was allowed to help me, let alone take me in. He would find me sooner or later and drag me back. While Andrew was drinking until he threw up at various exclusive clubs, still screaming my name, he was also simultaneously accompanying Karina to various events, pretending to be a loving couple. We met again at the engagement banquet of the Davis and Brown families. Casper was well connected in both the lawful and unlawful worlds abroad, had massive business operations, and was a wealthy business tycoon. As soon as he returned to the country, various family enterprises scrambled to network with him. The Davis family was considered prominent and respectable, so naturally, Casper had to give them face. Moreover, Casper's mother was originally from here, and he had lived here for a long time when he was young, so he had some past ties with the head of the Davis family. If you don't want to go, you don't have to. I am your husband now. You can say no to me. Before picking me up, Casper specifically asked for my opinion. I truly didn't want to see Andrew, but accompanying Casper to various business functions was stipulated in our agreement. Besides, I couldn't hide from Andrew for the rest of my life. Amidst the bustling crowd, Andrew's and my eyes unexpectedly met. He clearly panicked. Having been together for so many years, I couldn't be clearer about his mood at this moment. The joy of our reunion only stayed on his face for a split second. Once he calmed down, it was replaced by obvious fear. He was afraid that I was there to ruin his engagement banquet. I have a little work to handle. I'll be right back. Will you be okay alone? Casper's hand rested gently on my waist as he turned sideways to ask. He was quite a bit taller than me, yet he always lowered his head to look at me seriously when speaking. Feeling that burning gaze from not far away, I leaned in closer to Casper, helped him adjust his tie, and nodded, saying, "Ma'am, I'll wait for you." Casper raised an eyebrow, lowered his head, and pressed a light kiss to my forehead. My body stiffened as I heard him whisper in my ear, "Consider it payment for helping me." Casper specifically left his executive assistant to accompany me, but Andrew still found an opportunity. A waiter accidentally bumped into me, and I was led to the back hall to change clothes. I was only halfway through changing when Andrew suddenly burst in. "Who is that man? Where have you been hiding these past few days? Did he take you away?" He grabbed my wrist, pressing me step by step. "Mr. Andrew, today is the day of your engagement to Miss Karina. Please have some self-respect." Self-respect my ass. Andrew was red-faced with anger, the veins on his forehead bulging. "Randall, I do not agree to break up. Don't even think about leaving me in this lifetime." He reached out and grabbed my neck, trying to force a kiss on me. The memory of being violated that day instantly surged up. Trembling all over, I raised my hand and threw a punch, forcing him to take a step back. "Andrew, you bastard. You are the one marrying someone else. What right do you have to say such things?" I wiped away the tears of fear at the corners of my eyes and looked at him calmly. "I came today just to let you know that I don't care anymore. Let's part on good terms." "Randall." His face was full of disbelief. He stepped forward and tightly grabbed my hand, his voice trembling. "It's impossible that you don't care. You're just throwing a tantrum because you don't want me to get married, right? You still love me in your heart. You just found that man to make me mad, didn't you?" "Randall, believe me, I'm being forced to marry that woman. My eldest brother has been eyeing my position, and this marriage alliance was my last resort. The only person I love is you." I shook off his hand, not wanting to entangle with him any further. I didn't expect him to suddenly go crazy and scoop me up into his arms. "You're not going anywhere. I won't let you leave again." As I was struggling, there was a sudden bang, and the world spun before my eyes. Andrew was kicked down by someone, and I tumbled out, caught by a stranger. "I've been listening at the door for a while now. You scum. You're about to get married and you're still pestering someone else? Eating from the bowl while looking at the pot. Have you no shame?" The speaker was a young man, whose suit couldn't hide his robust physique. There was considerable force behind his kick. Andrew remained on the ground for quite a while, unable to get up. The commotion quickly drew people from the Davis family. This young man obviously didn't understand the situation. I grabbed him, wanting to leave, but was stopped by Andrew's shout. "You hit someone and want to leave? Detain them all. Try it if you dare." A familiar voice came from outside the door, unhurried, yet carrying a chill that sent shivers down one's spine. Casper walked in calmly, his expression indifferent, his eyes ice-cold. Following behind him was Andrew's eldest brother, the true wielder of power in the Davis family. The banquet was still ongoing, and people from the Brown family were all present. Under the dual pressure of Casper and his own eldest brother, Andrew could only swallow his anger and let us leave. "Apologies, I was thoughtless." In the back seat of the sedan, Casper draped his suit jacket over my shoulders, his tone apologetic. This had nothing to do with him to begin with. I was just about to say it was fine when I heard him say in a deep voice, "If you want, I can cripple his other leg too. And no need. I have nothing to do with him anymore." Casper suddenly tilted my chin up, forcing me to look at him. "Is it really that you have nothing to do with him? Or is it that you can't bear to?" His gaze was like it could see right through a person's heart. There was a knock on the car window, and the executive assistant's voice came through. "Boss, that person from just now wants to see you." It was the young man who had helped me earlier. I looked at Casper, who raised an eyebrow and said, "Oh, Richie's man." The car window rolled down and Casper checked his watch. "Tell him, although he helped my lover, one thing is one thing, and another is another. Tell him to come find me at the company tomorrow afternoon. He only has 10 minutes. Tell him to have his proposal ready." Chapter 3. Lover. Casper said I was his lover. Andrew and I were together for 5 years, and although the people around him called me sister-in-law, they all treated me like his kept paramour. That was why they dared to joke about our private matters right in front of Andrew. I clenched my fingers, knowing clearly in my heart that it was Andrew's indulgence that allowed them to act like that. He never truly treated me as a partner worthy of respect. "What are you thinking about?" Casper pried my fingers open and intertwined his with mine. "Even if ours is an arranged marriage, right now I am your husband in name. Thinking about another man right in front of me will make me jealous." His palm was broad and warm, constantly transmitting heat. I looked up at him. Casper usually looked as cold as frost, but when he smiled, 2 dimples appeared. "When you smile, you don't look so scary," I blurted out, instantly regretting it once the words left my mouth. Unexpectedly, not only was Casper not angry, but he actually seemed to be in a very good mood. He squeezed my palm and said seriously, "You don't need to be afraid of me, Randall. I am your husband." After Casper's branch company was established, he also moved over. With his help, I accepted the appropriate disciplinary action and returned to work at the hospital. My unexcused absences now had a reasonable explanation, sparing me from embarrassment in front of my colleagues. On my 3rd day back at work, Andrew actually came looking for me. He had lost his usual arrogance and looked somewhat wretched, having to be supported by others as he entered the hospital. After that fire, his left leg had indeed been broken, but with the Davis family's financial resources after 2 years of treatment, the issue was almost invisible, except that he couldn't do strenuous exercise. Seeing him in this state, I was initially startled, thinking his old injury had flared up, but I quickly realized he was faking his illness. "Dr. Randall, you wouldn't refuse to save a dying man, would you?" Andrew had registered under my name. As a doctor, I couldn't pick and choose my patients. I could only examine him according to procedure. "Is faking an illness fun?" "Andrew, how old are you?" Being exposed by me didn't embarrass him in the slightest. Instead, he said confidently, "Randall, I don't believe you don't feel anything for me anymore, and I certainly don't believe you're really with Casper. You're just mad at me and want me to bow my head and coax you. Fine, I can coax you. Who told me to like you so much?" I tore off the examination form and called the nurse. "Send him to the psychiatric department. I can't treat him here." I had forgotten that relentless pestering was originally what Andrew was best at. He had plenty of methods. He actually went through the admission procedures and brazenly moved into the hospital. "Dr. Randall, my leg hurts. Dr. Randall, my chest feels tight. Dr. Randall, Dr. Randall." Randall, that guy is, after all, a young master from a wealthy family. He's been spoiled since childhood, so his temper is a bit bad. They have background, so it's hard for us to say much. But a young couple's conflict spilling over into work doesn't look good for you. Why don't you take him back? Director Kenny whispered to me in the office at noon when there were few people around. Director Kenny, I have already broken up with him. I thought for a moment and added, besides, I already got married abroad. Director Kenny was shocked. He looked me up and down for a long time before saying thoughtfully, I get it. An ex relentlessly pestering you, right? Your temper is too good, you can't handle him. Have your husband come do it. After returning home, I thought for a long time. Casper handled things cleanly, efficiently, and ruthlessly. I originally didn't want to trouble him, but looking at it now, he was the only one who could make Andrew give up completely. I dialed Casper's number. The noisy ambient sound on the other end indicated he was very busy, and I suddenly found it hard to speak. Speak. I looked at the dishes on the table and hesitantly opened my mouth. I made dinner. Are you coming back to eat? The other end fell silent for a moment, then just said 2 words, wait for me. I originally thought I would have to reheat the food, but I didn't expect Casper to arrive home in half an hour. Casper and I lived under the same roof, usually busy with our own things. We rarely sat down quietly to eat together like this. The small light overhead cast a dim yellow glow, adding a special atmosphere to the surroundings. Under the light, the steam rising from the food gently drifted, causing me to zone out for a moment. Wasn't this the life I had once wanted? The days with Andrew. When we first moved in together, every piece of furniture in the house was chosen by us together. I asked him what he liked, and he would always say, as long as you like it. This is the home I'm giving you. Randall, our home. Looking back now, I could no longer distinguish which of his words were sincere and which were fake. I'm almost done eating. If you don't speak now, you won't have the chance. I looked up and met Casper's gaze. He narrowed his long, slender eyes, as if he had seen through all my emotions. I thought for quite a while before briefly telling him what had happened these past few days. Casper sat on the sofa, resting his chin on his hand as he listened to me, his eyes constantly fixed on my face. He asked calmly, didn't you dislike troubling me? Why did you think of asking for my help? I remembered Director Kenny's words and confessed. Director Kenny said, for this kind of thing, I can look for my husband. Casper raised an eyebrow, pursed his lips, and reached out to pull me into his lap to sit down. I tried to stand up but was held down by him. Casper, fine. When you need something, you call me husband. When you don't, you call me Casper, is that right? It wasn't that I hadn't noticed Casper's feelings for me. Even if we called it repaying a life-saving debt, one save for another should have settled the score. Contract marriage. Why pick me of all people? I am an orphan with no social circle and nothing to exploit. Given his conditions, he definitely wouldn't care about the little bit of money in my bank account. Then there was only one possibility left. Although I didn't care much about it, from childhood to adulthood, my looks had brought me quite a lot of trouble, including Andrew. It was hard for me to clearly state how I felt about Casper, but at the very least, I didn't hate him. I thought about it, tilted my head up, and placed a light kiss on Casper's cheek. Consider it payment for helping me. Is that okay? His breathing hitched, and his voice was a bit hoarse. Randall, if you indulge me like this, next time I will only push my luck further. I don't know what method Casper used, but from then on, I never saw Andrew at the hospital again. Until the day of Andrew's wedding, when the news of him abandoning his bride and running away spread across the internet. No one knew where he went. I received a call from Andrew's older brother. Strangely, in the past, although their attitude towards me wasn't bad, it couldn't be called polite either. But now, he kept his posture very low, asking me to help find Andrew, worried that he might do something stupid. I subconsciously looked at Casper beside me. Casper frowned, gently rubbing my palm. Knowing to ask for your husband's opinion now, not bad. But of course, I don't want you to go. Randall, whether he lives or dies has nothing to do with you. You don't owe him anything. He raised his hand and rubbed my head, continuing. I have 100 ways to make him disappear from your sight, but to completely let go of him, you have to rely on yourself. Chapter 4. The car stopped in front of the house Andrew and I used to live in. This was the last possible place. Andrew was definitely here. Before going in, I looked back at Casper. He was leaning against the hood of the car with his hands in his pockets. I don't know since when, but Casper seemed to have become someone who gave me peace of mind. He never pressured me and respected my thoughts and choices as much as possible. It was as if, no matter what happened, he would be right behind me, supporting me. The evening wind was blowing hard, making his overcoat flutter. Casper raised his index finger, tapped his watch, and mouthed to me, 15 minutes. Well, it wasn't completely without pressure, like right now. He said that if it took more than 15 minutes, he would go straight up and throw the guy out the window, and he was a man of his word. I pushed the door open and saw Andrew slumped on the floor. The ground was littered with empty liquor bottles and cigarette butts. He looked incredibly decadent, completely lacking the spirited young master demeanor he used to have. Blood was flowing from his wrist. He was the person most afraid of pain, yet he chose the most painful way. Randall, I don't know how long he had been agonizing. His eyes were bloodshot and a little swollen. Your family is looking for you. I stepped forward and grabbed his arm. It was as if he suddenly woke up, tightly gripping my hand in return. It's not a hallucination. It's really you. Randall. Crying, he hugged me, muttering nonstop. I knew you still had me in your heart, right? Randall, I really know I was wrong. I'm not getting married. Don't be with anyone else. Don't abandon me. I pushed Andrew away. He was dead drunk right now and had no strength to resist me. I found the medical kit in the house, took out some bandages and bandaged him up. He looked at me, becoming uncharacteristically quiet. Seeing that the time was almost up after handling everything, I called the head of the Davis family and prepared to leave. Andrew pulled me back, his eyes full of pleading. Randall, I ran away from my wedding for you. Are you still going to leave me behind? Andrew, whether you get married or not has nothing to do with me. But by running away from your wedding, I am the one paying the price for your capriciousness. The internet is full of our business, and the things being said are very ugly. I've become the target of everyone's condemnation. And now you want to die, making me bear the burden of a human life. Andrew froze, crying out in anxiety, grabbing my arm to explain. Randall, I didn't mean it. Do you know? When I stood there, looking at those people, listening to the officiant speak, my mind was entirely full of you. Why? You loved me so much before. How could you marry someone else? I didn't know what to do. I really didn't know. As he spoke, he suddenly dropped to his knees, hurriedly pulling a ring from his pocket and trying to slip it onto my finger. Randall, didn't you want to marry me? Let's get married, okay? I'll marry you, let's start over. I did a lot of wrong things before, said a lot of ugly things. It was all my fault. I will never do it again. Forgive me, please forgive me. Okay? I swear. Andrew, will definitely treat you well in this life. I'm begging you, I beg you. Enough. I swatted his hand away. The ring fell to the ground, spinning several times. Andrew, I don't like you anymore. And I especially don't like the way you are right now. This was the first time I had spoken this sentence in its entirety, as if there were no longer any obstacles in my heart. Andrew's body, which was crawling to find the ring, suddenly stiffened. He picked up the ring and began to laugh softly, until tears flowed down. His laughter grew louder and louder, and finally he started coughing violently. Randall, I've really lost you, haven't I? This was the last question he asked me. I didn't answer. The answer was already very clear to him. In the previous years, Andrew's pursuit of me was known to everyone in our circle. He pretended to be an unambitious, infatuated man. After pretending for so long, maybe even he himself couldn't tell the real from the fake anymore. Because Andrew ran away from the wedding, the Brown family became a joke, especially Karina. I have to say, Andrew was very cunning. On the surface, he made everyone think his dad was forcing him to get married. In reality, he snatched this marriage alliance from his older half-brother. Ultimately, he was the one who coaxed Miss Karina. Now, Andrew abandoned Karina in front of so many people, and unexpectedly, it was still because of a man like me. As the apple of her family's eye, spoiled since childhood. How could she have ever suffered such a grievance? When Karina came looking for me, I had just gotten off work. Unsurprisingly, Andrew was standing at the hospital entrance with flowers, waiting for me. This had been going on for half a month straight. According to him, "Randall, I've figured it out. It's okay if you don't love me. I can start over and wait for you to fall in love with me again." I shot him a glance and prepared to leave quickly. My phone rang. It was Casper. "There's not much going on at the company today, so I got off work early. I'll come pick you up. What do you want to eat tonight? Just wait for me at that intersection. I'll be right there." After hanging up, Andrew was still following behind me. He heard Casper's voice, and his mood visibly dropped quite a bit. "He's here to pick me up. I don't want him to see you. Don't come looking for me anymore." I looked back at Andrew. He bit his lip and didn't speak. I sighed and turned to leave, when suddenly a piercing screech of brakes hit my ears. "Randall, watch out." To save me, Andrew was sent flying by an unidentified vehicle. He was severely injured. The hospital had just changed shifts, and I was the best chief surgeon for this operation. "Randall, can you do this?" Director Kenny patted my shoulder, a bit worried. I calmly looked at the examination report and nodded. "There's no time." Before the surgery, I had Director Kenny call Casper to tell him there was an emergency surgery and to go home first. I watched with my own eyes as Andrew was sent flying right in front of me, landing heavily, his blood instantly splashing onto my face. My mind went completely blank, as if I could hear the flatline sound of an ECG monitor. I originally thought I hated him, and even wished he were dead. But strangely, I didn't feel that way. Just like when I picked up the scalpel, I thought my hands would tremble and my heart would race because the person on the operating table was once the most intimate person to me. But that didn't happen either. It was just like the countless ordinary surgeries I had performed, taking over an ordinary patient. I understood. Andrew and I had regressed to a position that was even worse than square one. Chapter 5. The surgery was very successful. It saved Andrew's life, but he would never be able to stand up again. As soon as I walked out of the operating room, I saw Casper in the hallway. Almost as if seeing right through the thick surgical scrubs, he recognized me at a glance. "How is it?" He survived, but both legs had to be amputated. I answered truthfully, not expecting the usually calm Casper to actually swear. "Who the fuck is asking about that bastard?" "I'm asking about you. Karina was coming right for you. Did Andrew shield you completely? Are you hurt?" I froze. Seeing his reddened eyes, I raised my hands, gently wrapped them around his waist, and said softly, "Casper, I'm fine." Casper's chest heaved. Looking toward the operating room, he said coldly, "It better be. Otherwise, neither the Davis family nor the Brown family will be able to escape this." The eldest son of the Davis family was the first to rush over. He had always been good at playing the role of the caring older brother. Andrew had become a cripple, humiliating the Davis family, and was no longer qualified to compete for the inheritance rights. When Karina saw Andrew humbling himself to beg for my forgiveness, she had stepped on the gas pedal in a moment of impulse. Ultimately, she was just a sheltered young lady who had never experienced real consequences. She ran home in a panic to beg for help, and the Brown family was dead set on protecting her. Casper deliberately let the two families bicker and fight with each other until things escalated out of control. In the end, the Davis family and the Brown family became bitter enemies, both suffering heavy losses. And Karina was still sent to prison by Casper. As for Andrew, he was completely ruined, becoming an abandoned pawn of the Davis family. Time passed quickly. The 3-month deadline of our contract marriage was approaching. Andrew's injuries stabilized, and he requested to be transferred to another hospital. Speaking of which, I hadn't seen him since the surgery. Similarly, after waking up, he hadn't asked to see me either. It wasn't until he was about to transfer that he asked someone to pass on a message, wanting to see me one last time. "Dr. Randall." I looked at the emaciated person on the bed, both familiar and strange. After coming back from the gates of hell, he had completely changed. "I heard you performed the surgery and saved my life." "Thank you." Andrew's eyelashes fluttered. With a bitter smile on his face, he muttered to himself, "As expected in your heart, I'm already a stranger, aren't I?" You don't even hate me anymore. With my hands in my pockets, I stood in front of him and said candidly, "Yes, Andrew, I don't love you anymore, nor do I hate you. Likewise, I won't feel grateful to you either. This car accident happened because of you in the first place. You're just reaping what you sowed. Saving you is my duty as a doctor. You don't need to thank me. Just pay your medical bills." He gritted his teeth, his fingers tightly gripping the blanket, still unwilling to accept it. "Then who do you love, Casper? What gives him the right? How long have you even known each other? Do you know what kind of person he is? How can you be sure he doesn't have ulterior motives? I wouldn't call it love yet, but I admit I like him. As for what kind of person he is and whether he has ulterior motives, I will judge that for myself. Furthermore, Andrew, you know that my world originally consisted only of myself. In the past, because of you, I grew greedy and wanted more. Not anymore. Whether I gain or lose, whether people leave or stay, I can accept it all." I paused for a moment and continued, "From now on, my life will only be loyal to myself." As soon as I walked out of the hospital room, I ran into Casper. He was wearing a well-tailored dark suit, looking both noble and casual, holding a bouquet of flowers in his left hand. Seeing me, he walked over, handed me the flowers, and naturally took my hand. "Let's go. Let's go home." "You heard everything?" Casper gave an and added, "Not everything. I just heard you say." He rested his chin on my head and planted a soft kiss on the crown of my hair. "That you like me." To be honest, the moment I saw Casper, I felt a bit flustered. But thinking about it calmly, a smart person like Casper wouldn't go looking for trouble. When it comes to relationships, he is definitely more rational than I am. On the way home, he didn't show any emotion, acting just like usual. It wasn't until after dinner that he called for a lawyer and placed stacks of documents in front of me. "Randall, sign here." Was Casper ending the agreement? Although I was prepared for this, I still couldn't help but lower my head and clench my fingers tightly. I picked up the pen and decisively signed my name where he indicated. "It's a bit late today. I'll pack my things and move out tomorrow." Casper frowned. He thought for a second, and his face darkened. "Do you want to take a look at what you just signed?" I flipped through a few pages. It was actually Casper's will. He had listed all the assets under his name, and I, as his spouse, was the sole heir. "We won't have children, and my parents have more money than I do. So, my everything is right here. It's all yours." I froze. Casper took a large stride to stand in front of me, half kneeling as he held my hands. "Randall, when evaluating a man, don't listen to what he says. Look at what he does." I finally understood why he was doing this. A few days ago, I heard Director Kenny mention it. Before the surgery, while Andrew was still conscious, he was shouting that if he died, he would leave his inheritance to me. I hadn't taken it to heart at all, but I didn't expect Casper to find out. "Casper, you don't need to do this." "I do." He interrupted me, a trace of emotion appearing on his usually cold, stern face. "I know that because of Andrew, you can't truly trust anyone right now. I'm not a sentimental person, and I probably don't know how to express my feelings very well either. I can only use my own methods to give you a sense of security. You don't have to care about me, but you need to know that I care very much about you." He placed my hand over his heart, and I could clearly feel his powerful heartbeat. Chapter 6. Finale. Our contract marriage officially came to an end. From that day forward, we truly became each other's chosen partner, not just in name, but in our hearts. Not long after, while organizing some documents, I discovered a stack of files and letters. They turned out to be the Garcia family's lists and detailed records of the people they had sponsored around the world over the years. When every child of the Garcia family came of age, the elders would have them choose someone in need from an orphanage's list to sponsor using the money they earned themselves. And I was the person Casper had chosen to sponsor. Ever since receiving the sponsorship, I would regularly write letters to the sponsor's address, reporting on my studies and daily life, even though I never received a single reply. It turned out that Casper had known me far earlier than I could have ever imagined. Late at night, while I was deep in sleep, I felt the mattress behind me dip slightly. Casper gently embraced me from behind, bringing with him the fresh, crisp scent of a recent shower. I turned around and hugged him back. Casper, who had been affectionately nuzzling the top of my head, suddenly paused. He tilted my chin up and placed a soft kiss on my lips. "It's so late. Why aren't you asleep yet?" I beckoned him to lower his head and whispered softly into his ear. "Old Mr. Garcia, wishing you peace and joy, health and safety year after year." Casper's body instantly stiffened. After a long moment, he pulled me tightly into his arms. "You know everything now? In the past, I only knew my sponsor was a gentleman with the surname Garcia. I had subconsciously pictured an elderly, wealthy man, which was why I included that sentence at the end of every letter. Why didn't you tell me?" I had always kept my guard up regarding Casper's sudden declaration of love, and he was well aware of this. That day outside the hospital room, Casper had clearly heard Andrew's interrogation. He could have just explained this past connection to me then, but he chose the most direct and unexpected method, leaving all his assets to me to prove his sincerity. Casper buried his face in the crook of my neck for a long time before his muffled voice came through. It felt too awkward. "And besides," he paused, then said seriously, "sponsoring you was a family arrangement. I couldn't use that to demand you reciprocate my feelings." Casper looked down, his eyes gazing at me with absolute sincerity. "Randall, I wanted you to stay because of love, because you, I cut his words off by kissing his lips, gently tracing their shape. "Because I love you." The bedroom wall lamp cast a warm orange glow, reflecting two silhouettes snuggled closely together on the wall. It wasn't until the first ray of morning light pierced through the curtains that I suddenly realized dawn had already broken. If you enjoyed this story, remember to subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much.